Hello everyone, my name's Lisa. I'm one of the trainers at Real Care Training at West Ipswich, and this support session is designed to help you out with the application assessment for one of the ageing units, which is, I'm going to share with you here, is CHCAGE001, which is Facilitate the Empowerment of Older People. Okay, because we find that students need, the most support with the applications because of the way the case studies sort of read. They just need that little bit of support. And this session is designed to try and give you a little bit of that, the experience that our students who attend the classroom may receive in class. Okay, so the other thing to keep in mind is that your trainer would have sent you also a study plan for each unit that you complete. So you should have received a study plan for this particular unit. If you haven't received it, just send your trainer an email and they'll send that off to you. So I just wanted to quickly show you what the study plan is so you have an idea. Okay, so this is a study plan for this particular unit, okay, which we email to you. So you've got, it just helps break the unit up into weekly sections for you, just so that the unit isn't too overwhelming, because every unit via distance should be done in 1 month. So in this study plan also, we've included some suggested viewing as well. It's not compulsory that you view these clips, but it is a good idea just to support your learning. Okay, so you can just highlight, these clips and either copy and paste it into your internet browser, or you may be able to hit your control button and then click the clip so that it takes you straight through to YouTube to watch them. Okay, so there's a number there, and they're all quite different depending on the unit you're currently working on. But with this particular unit, I want to just draw your attention to week 3 here, which is the Montessori in Aged Care, the Changing Lives. It's actually a fantastic clip to watch, and it just really shows how certain facilities have gone above and beyond to try and provide their residents or clients, with the absolute, all these opportunities with their independence. And it's just empowering these people, to be able to do, do things for themselves and, use their existing skills and build on current skills. Okay, so it's quite a long clip. Could be about between 20 and 25 minutes anyway, but it's really worth a watch if you get the chance. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I will share the screen with the application assessment for you. Okay, so the first page of the application assessment, you need to include your full name as you wrote on your enrolment form and what shows on your driver's license, for instance. No nicknames or anything like that. It's got to be your full correct name. Your phone number, your workplace. So if you're an aging student and you have to complete work placement, then you can put your workplace down as Real Care Training Proprietary Limited. Okay, your learner declaration, you need to fill your name out here. So that's declaring, to us that this is your own work and no one else completed the work on your behalf. Now you need to put your signature in here. You can either copy and paste a JPEG picture of your signature, or you can simply type out your name and then just change the font and maybe make it bold or change the font size a little bit to make it a bit bigger perhaps, and that's fine with us. And then put the date in. The date needs to be the full year, so don't write 20, you need to write 2020. Okay, and then here you need to list the time spent reading and researching for this assessment and the time spent completing the assessment. So please don't leave those sections out. All these orange sections need to be filled out before we can go and mark your assessment. So the time spent, you just list the hours. So that's where you just need to record the amount of hours you're spending completing these assessments, and then that will give you a rough idea of what you can put in for this form. Okay, this is for the assessor once you submit, so don't worry about that. As standard in all these assessments, you've got the important information, you've got learner instructions, we've got our assessor instructions, and then we're going to start with case study 1. Okay, so I'll read that out to you. So your client's name is Ethel Day. She is 78 years old and she's a widow with no family living in the area. Ethel owns her home. It's an old Victorian that is a high set with 12 steps leading to the front entrance. She has lived in this house for the past 55 years with her husband and she had 4 children. Ethel's husband, Bob, passed away late last year. Ethel has an electric pedestal fan standing in the middle of the lounge room. You've noticed that there is no power point and that Ethel has an extension cord running from the dining room to the lounge room so she can plug the fan into power. Throughout the house, there are lots of mats on the floor. The house is cluttered and there are piles of collected magazines and newspapers in the dining room, lounge and sunroom and the bedroom. Many of the magazines are actually her late husband Bob's. Ethel collects dolls and stuffed animals. These are everywhere and they're resting on the floor in some rooms as there's no more room on the shelves or display case to store them. Ethel welcomes you this morning and presents her new doll that she's purchased on the weekend. Okay, so Ethel's health issues are she has heart problems, she's got respiratory and breathing problems, so she gets short of breath. She's got arthritis of the hands, shoulders and knees. Okay, she's deaf in her right ear. She has poor vision, so she wears glasses. She requires assistance with showering. She needs assistance with washing her feet and back, vacuuming, so doing all the floors, cleaning the bathroom, assisting with her shopping and paying her bills. Your role is to provide 30 minutes of personal care on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, and you have 90 minutes weekly for domestic assistance and social support. Okay, so you can see your roster there, okay, and the times and what you do within those times. So your first question here is you are meeting with Ethel for the first time. So how can you establish a rapport with Ethel? Okay, so you can fill this out in bullet point form if you like. Okay, and, you know, just list maybe a minimum of 3 ways that you can help establish a rapport, which is like a connection, I guess, with Ethel. So, you know, think about when you meet, you know, someone for the first time and you really want to make a bit of an impression on that person. What do you do first? Would you just rock up to her house, walk in and just, you know, start walking around, or what would you do? What's the first thing, that communication and contact you're going to have with Ethel? Okay, and the other thing too, building a rapport, whenever we're speaking to new people for the first time, what are we always looking for? We're looking for those things perhaps that, you know, that can help us carry on our communication and make it easy to talk with someone. So just have a think about those things you try and establish when you're meeting someone for the first time. And just think Ethel's probably, you know, sort of judging you a little bit to see what your communication techniques are like and what sort of a person you are. Okay, so question 2. Ethel has said to you that she cannot shower herself at all this time and that you need to do the complete shower. So the care plan states that Ethel is able to partially shower herself. So what are you going to do in this situation? So just think you've always got to follow your care plan, okay? So the care plan states that you do assist her with the shower, but she can do certain things herself. So she may be able to, you know, wash all those parts of the body, and then you may, you know, help her to wash her back or her feet or something. Okay, so you need to follow the care plan. But then again, you've got a client here that is asking you to shower her completely. Okay, so you need to follow the directions of your client because that's person-directed care, isn't it? Client-directed care, they're giving you a direction. But this is a change. whether it's a behavioural thing or, you know, is it because of her physical abilities? So what are you going to do in this situation? Okay, who are you going to talk to and what are you going to say to Ethel? Okay, question 3. You've been providing services to Ethel now for 4 months and you notice that Ethel is having increased difficulty using her hands. So what do you need to do now? Okay, so as a care worker, we are always looking at our clients or residents, aren't we? So what are you doing in that case? Okay, and then what steps are you going to do now that you know Ethel quite well? Okay, so you know her capabilities, but now she's having this increased difficulty using her hands. So what are you going to do about that? Okay. Question 4. You arrive at Ethel's house at your allocated time on Monday to find Ethel now lying on the floor. So her leg is caught underneath her at an unusual angle. Now, Ethel says she fell during the night. So here we want you to list in order what you will do to help Ethel. Okay, so you walk in there and you've got a situation here, okay? So you just think to yourself, what steps? There's a number of steps that you're going to take in order to help Ethel here. You know, it does look quite serious. She's been lying there since the night before is what she's reported to you, hey. So it's serious. So what actions are you going to take? And the other thing to think about as well is that, you know, she may be in a bit of a state of panic, especially now you've arrived. She could be a bit worked up. So what are you also going to do to assist her when she's feeling this way? Stressed, sore, upset, fatigued, probably very thirsty. Okay, so just list a few of those steps there that you would do if you walked in and found Ethel in that situation. Okay, now we've got case study 2. So we've got Susan is a care worker in an aged care facility. Susan is filling in today for one of the hostel carers. She has introduced herself to one of the clients named Yvonne. Susan has read the care plan. Yvonne is independent but needs some assistance with her daily medication. So this involves a reminder and prompting to take it. The RN has also told Susan at shift handover that Yvonne has an eye infection and is on a short course of eye drops for 7 days. Part of Susan's role is to provide instructions to Yvonne to assist her with the application of her eye drops. Yvonne has told you that she is running late but needs to have her shower first. As Yvonne needs no assistance with her showering, Susan tells Yvonne that she'll be back in 5 minutes and that she does not need to hurry with her shower. Okay? When Susan returns, she notices that Yvonne has overbalanced when getting out of the shower and she stumbled, crashing into the shower wall. Yvonne needs to step over the lip of the shower cubicle here. So Yvonne does not fall and says that she's okay when Susan asks her. Susan tells Yvonne that she will need to report the incident, so remember that, as it is part of your responsibility and role to do so. Yvonne mentions that this has happened before and that the usual worker hasn't said anything to her about reporting and documenting what's happening. Susan explains to Yvonne the process of why she needs to report it to her supervisor, and when Susan sees her supervisor to verbally report the incident, she mentions that she's actually concerned, as Yvonne has mentioned that this has happened previously and that the incident has never been reported by the carer. The supervisor follows up with the report and sets up a meeting with Yvonne to discuss the matter of the recent incident and the possible incidents that were mentioned in conversation with Susan. The supervisor, with the client's consent, organises a reassessment of Yvonne's physical status, looking at a subsequent change to the support and care plan. Okay, so we need to list what Susan, so Susan's the care worker, hey, that's taken over for this shift, and she's new here, well, new to Yvonne anyway. So list what Susan did to meet her duty of care obligations for Yvonne. Okay, so you can answer once again in bullet point form. So you just go through the case study and think about those things that she said to Yvonne, for starters. So that's a bit of a duty of care. She was caring because of, you know, a few things that she actually said to Yvonne. And is she reporting the incident here or not? Okay, so you need to put in all of those things that Yvonne did correctly, okay, that met her duty of care. And there's a number of things there, okay? So just have a good read through that case study. Now for question 2. All right, why is it important to complete ongoing risk assessments for clients? Okay, so why can't we just do a risk assessment and just leave it till, you know, a couple of years down the track and we might do another risk assessment then? Why would we not do that? Why is it important to continually do these risk assessments for clients? You think they are having changing needs, aren't they? You know, and often they have a decline in their physical abilities and things like that. So why is it important to continually do risk assessments? Okay, the next question is list 2 aids, okay, and 2 modifications to the environment that could assist Yvonne to maintain her independence when she's having a shower. Okay, aids are those things that we can bring in. Say, for instance, if someone is having problems eating, okay, we can bring in aids, as in modified cutlery that we could bring in for people that have thicker handles or the cutlery is curved to help them eat. So they're aids, they're things, equipment that we can bring in. And then you've got modifications. So for Yvonne, what are changes? You think about, you've got to read through that case study and you think of what actually was there that sort of made Yvonne even have a bit of a trip. What modifications could we make to the environment? You know, they're changes that we would make to the environment to make it more safe for Yvonne. 2 of each. Okay, then we've got case study 3. So we've got Melanie is a community carer. She generally visits one of her clients, Betty, once a week so she can support Betty with shopping and other errands on an as-needs basis. So she does a bit of running about, okay, as needed. Usually, Betty goes with Melanie to do the shopping and other tasks. But today, Betty has said that she's feeling unwell and she's asked Melanie to do the shopping for her, you know, without her having to go. Melanie has discussed Betty's apparently worsening health issues with her supervisor. Her supervisor has contacted Betty and is calling in to assess how Betty is feeling, and at the same time, she's going to complete an informal assessment to identify if there is a need to formally complete an ACAT assessment. Okay, so you may remember an ACAT assessment, you know, through your other units as an aged care assessment team. Okay, so people from the aged care assessment team, they come out and that's how they assess people to work out what levels of support and care that person needs. Okay, and they're given a particular level. So the ACAT assessment may be required to determine Betty's current health and changes that may be required with future care and service provision. Okay, which is the type of service we are going to have to provide for Betty. So discuss the care team responses in terms of promoting that positive ageing sort of experience and approach with Betty's care. So by reading the case study, just have a bit of a read through it and work out, you know, how this organisation sort of tries to help promote, you know, Betty's independence and making a positive impact on Betty's experience. You think about those things that the carer does, I guess, with Betty and includes her with. Okay, and then also what sort of a discussion or what action was taken then as well once Betty had this change in needs with not wanting to go shopping anymore. Okay, and we've got case study 4. So this is about Mr. Campbell. So he's 84 years of age and he lives alone. He receives care support once a week to assist with cleaning, shopping and his banking. Mr. Campbell's son Jamie lives in a country town 300 kilometres away. So Mr. Campbell and his son Jamie, they talk regularly and Jamie rings his dad twice a week. Mr. Campbell attends the local senior citizens club once a week to play bingo with a small group of friends he has made there. Mr. Campbell's home is old and needs repair. His garden is overgrown and there are no security screens on the doors or windows. And when he is alone, he rarely answers the door as he's too nervous and wary about who may be at the door. So that's really sad, isn't it? So question 1 is list the problems that need to be addressed for Mr. Campbell to maintain his safety and well-being while living in the community. Okay, so we need to discuss, what sort of a house is he living at? What's the condition of the house here? It's described a little bit of that for you. Okay, so you need to come up with all the problems here. So what other issues? House, what's happening outside his house? Just outside the front door, they've mentioned, how the environment is and what is making him nervous about answering the door. What isn't there to sort of help protect him and make him feel safe when someone rings at the doorbell. Okay, so just list a couple of those problems that you've identified in the case study there. Now we need to make a list of actual suggestions. Okay, so you've come up with the problem. What are we now going to suggest for Mr. Campbell? Okay, make a list of suggestions the care worker could present to Mr. Campbell to increase his home security and enable him to feel safe in his own home. Okay, so you've got your problems there, and for all of those problems that you listed, come up with a bit of a solution, okay? So if he doesn't feel safe answering the door because he doesn't have any security screens, what could we do? Or you think about even if he has a main wooden door, is there a modification that could be made to even that door? Are there cameras? What could we do to try and make him feel safe? And what about the condition of his house? What about the condition of outside his house? Okay, so that's where we need to come up with some suggestions to help him. Okay, case study 5. Mrs. White wanted to go into respite care in a residential aged care facility, but has no idea which ones are good and what ones would suit her budget and her needs. Mrs. White was given a list of residential aged care facilities by the coordinator of the agency who provide care services to her, but she was bewildered by the choice. Okay, so there was just too much of a choice for her. You can just imagine. She was run down and depressed after several falls and could not decide like this without any help. A neighbour suggested that she access an advocate that could assist her with decisions and lifestyle choices for the future. The advocate that visited found Mrs. White wanted to talk about her problems. The advocate listened to her in order to build up a picture of the things that she needed, but kept the meetings focused only on that practical help, which is staying within their work role boundary, isn't it, their scope of practice. So they only focused on the practical help that she could provide as an advocate. The advocate listened while Mrs. White talked about what she wanted, and they got information and brochures from a selection of aged care facilities that would fit her preferences. The advocate helped her visit some nursing homes, and they ensured that she was given a choice of room, and again, they listened to her preferences and they made sure the care home understood her preferences. Mrs. White spent only 1 month in the nursing home. So with this recuperation and a better diet, she felt a lot better and she wanted to return home. This was her choice and the advocate supported her in this choice, although she did not think the choice was in Mrs. White's best interests. Okay, so question 1 here is, do you think that the advocate was supportive of Mrs. White? So you circle yes or no, or you can highlight it or underline which one you think. Now remember, an advocate can either be a formal advocate where you may, an organisation, an advocacy organisation may help someone, which is, just someone to provide support and guidance, people that need that or, are not understanding things, okay? They can assist and guide, vulnerable people, to make particular decisions. Or you could have informal advocates. So, Mrs. White, just say she had a couple of daughters, for instance, or, a son-in-law or something like that, that could act as an informal advocate who could help her make these choices and decisions because she's bewildered and she's confused here. Okay, so that's what an advocate is. But in this case, she may not have family that can help her. So now she's got an advocate here to help. So explain your answer. Why or why not has the advocate been supportive of Mrs. White? What did the aged care service do to support Mrs. White with her preferences? So you've got to head later on into the case study. And once she got to the aged care service and she was dealing with them, what did they do to fit in with her preferences? Okay. Now we've got case study 6. So Judith is an 80-year-old female client with early stages of dementia. She's living in her own home, supported by her daughter Sonia and care workers from the service. On intake, Judith and her daughter Sonia were very happy that Judith had received funding to enable Judith to access services and supports to enable her to remain in her own home. That's a typo. Recently, the coordinator has received a couple of reports from care workers. Care workers have reported that they have noticed that Judith is becoming increasingly despondent lately. So she's not communicating as much, okay? So she's not responding to them like she used to, okay? She may be a bit vague and confused, perhaps. She seems to have lost her self-esteem, is often crying, and she's cringing at sudden movements. When the care workers go to leave, she actually grabs their arm and she says, no. When the coordinator arrives for a visit, she finds the door wide open. She knocks and calls out, introducing herself. There is no response, but she can hear Judith. The coordinator enters to find Judith rocking. She's hand-wringing and she's mumbling in her chair. And neighbour Kenny calls out and he introduces himself and says that sometimes he helps Sonia care for her mother, and he reports that he sometimes actually hears Sonia yelling at her mother in frustration. The coordinator calms Judith down. The coordinator asks Judith some questions about the way she is feeling. Judith tells the coordinator that her daughter Sonia has yelled at her and has said that she's not coming back. The coordinator asks Judith, has this happened before? Judith says yes. How many times has the coordinator asks? Judith holds up her hand with 5 fingers. Okay, so Judith explains that this has happened 5 times. Further discussion identifies that Judith has not had breakfast or her medication. The coordinator gets Judith some breakfast and her medication. She explains to Judith that she will wait with her and ring her daughter Sonia. Judith jumps up, she bursts into tears and says, no, don't tell her anything. The coordinator notices that when Judith moves suddenly, that she's got bruises on her wrists and that Judith is holding it. Okay, so this is something that, you know, you never know. Hopefully you don't, but it's a real life scenario that could happen to you, okay, when you're out there in the community, either with an aged person or a person with a disability. So question 1 is you need to identify and list the signs relating to suspected physical, mental abuse. So you've got physical abuse, you've got mental abuse here, and you've also got neglect. Okay, so if you want to write those different types of abuse in, go physical and put some key points in. What are those things that you've found are physical abuse? Mental abuse, that's another heading, right? Mental abuse. Put a few of those issues that you think are mental abuse, those signs that you're looking for here. And then neglect. How has Judith been neglected in this situation? Question 2, Judith has said no to discussing this matter with her daughter Sonia. Does Judith have the right to confidentiality at this time? Okay, so you think this is, you know, you've got all sorts of things here. You've got, you know, duty of care and things like that, isn't it? So have a think about if this was you, you came into a situation like this, you know, you've got neglect, physical abuse, you know, emotional abuse, which is, you know, psychological abuse. Does Judith have the right to confidentiality here? If you walked away and said, okay, I promise I won't say anything, and you never say anything to anyone, what would happen? Okay, so have a think about that. And discuss your reasons why. Why did you come up with that decision? Okay, what are you following with your decision? Now, question 3 is, what is the coordinator's responsibility here in addressing this matter? Okay, so if you believe you need to address the matter, okay, what steps are you going to take to actually try and work out what's happening here? Okay, you know, is there a problem with the daughter? Why is the daughter, you know, behaving this way with her mother? Is it because she's stressed? She needs more support. You know, is there respite available? All those sorts of things. So it's not always against the carer in this scenario too. Remember, they do sometimes try and do the best they can with their abilities. Now you've got your unit evaluation survey. So please fill that out with your name and the date and put your honest opinion in here. Okay, and any additional comments or feedback you have for us, please. Okay. Okay, so there's just one last thing I wanted to share with you as well, which I'm going to share my screen again to show you a PowerPoint presentation just briefly. It's just about the 8 aged care quality standards, okay? So they used to have a whole lot of standards and they've just put them all together just to make the 8, to try and simplify things a little bit, okay? So you've got Standard 1 is your consumer dignity and choice. Okay, so there's plenty of information on the internet, even on the government websites, that really go into detail about these standards. And even in your study plan that you've been sent, if you're a distance student, your trainer has also included these standards, a bit of a consumer video about these standards to try and explain a little bit more. But it's all about being allowed to take that dignity of risk, okay, which means, you know, you're going to allow your aged care people, okay, because this directly relates to aged care only, these 8 standards, that you can have your client or, you know, resident take some risks that are reasonable, you know, and they've got the choice to take those risks, okay, because sometimes we need to make mistakes, don't we? And we learn from mistakes. So we can't just make their environment completely risk-free and eliminate every hazard, you know, and wrap everyone up in bubble wrap. It just doesn't work like that because it's not a healthy environment. Okay, so that's what it's all about, allowing them choice and dignity, and also that dignity to take risks. Standard 2 is about the ongoing assessment and planning. Okay, so it's just about ensuring that your aged care person, you know, the residents and clients are, you know, having a round the table meeting with management and the assessment team, you know, to work out, you know, do they need a bit more help, or do they actually want a bit of a, you know, assessment to go, actually, I'm getting better at this. I don't need as much help anymore. You know, it's not always about the negatives. It's often positive as well. Okay, it's enabling them. Standard 3 is about personal care and clinical care. So just making sure that the people are being, you know, assisted by staff that, you know, have the skills, I guess, to provide the right personal care and clinical care to make the person feel safe. You know, are they provided with batteries for their hearing aids? Are they helped to, you know, clean their glasses because that's what they need for their vision? You know, is there catheter care? You can see in the picture down there. You know, are the staff, you know, equipped and trained to assist them with catheter care correctly and things like that. Okay, standard 4 is about services and supports for daily living. Okay, so are they getting the domestic help such as cleaning, laundry, gardening, home maintenance? Are they getting the services that they actually need and want? Okay, are they allowed opportunities or provided with opportunities to get out in their community as well? You know, because that's emotional support, you know, psychological well-being. Standard 5 is about the organisation's service environment. Okay, so what's the environment? Is it too complicated? Is it too cluttered? Or is it free from clutter? Is it safe? You know, are the signs easy to read, or are the walls covered in signs so really no one has any idea what signs relate to them? That kind of thing, okay? So that's why we've put a picture of the room in there, just to remind you it's about the environment that they, you know, they're in the community, whether it's the dining room, lounge room, you know, or their own bedrooms. What's the environment? Is it quality and right for them? Standard 6 is about feedback and complaints. So are they provided with opportunities and encouraged, you know, to provide feedback and complaints? That's often why in aged care facilities they have resident meetings, okay, so that these people can are given opportunities to provide feedback and make complaints, or a staff helping them, giving them a form. Here, I'll help you write out a complaint, you know. Standard 7 is about human resources, okay? So the sufficiency of the workforce supporting me. Is it adequate? Is there enough staff supporting me? And what's their attitude like? You know, is everyone skilled enough in what they do? Standard 8 is the organisational governance, okay? So I am confident the organisation is well run. I can partner in improving on the delivery of care and services. It's about the organisation ensuring that they're minimising the use of restraints with people, okay? People may have, you know, dementia. Are they using restraints when they shouldn't be? Are there other ways? And do they have, you know, steps and policies and procedures in place, you know, to take action for certain things, you know, duty of care? You know, are they responding correctly to any signs of abuse and neglect with their consumers? Okay. All right, so that wraps up this support session. So I hope you got a lot out of it. And once again, please contact us if you have any further questions, your distance trainer, as we are more than happy to help. Even if you've got further questions after this support session, we encourage you to please contact us because that's what we're here for. All right, good luck. Thank you.